Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to What You Want, and thanks for logging on. Today, we're looking at the Giuliano Mazzuoli Manometro, 43 millimeters in brushed steel. You can see this Manometro, and if you like, you can purchase it on our website, watchyouwant.com. And if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, What You Want Inc. Now, you can see on my wrist, 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference. This Manometro wears in most unconventional fashion, because at 43 millimeters and about 15 millimeters thick, you would say that sounds an awful lot like an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak offshore. In fact, 43 would be right between the 42 and the 44 millimeter offshore models. And at 15 millimeters thick, it would be within about half a millimeter of the 42 millimeter offshore. The difference here is that those watches wear much larger than their case size suggests. This one wears much smaller. In fact, although big and visually impressive, the watch is almost completely lugless, which is to say that if it's a 43 millimeter watch, it is just a 43 millimeter watch. Almost a cushion case. That description almost doesn't even do it justice. In the modern era, there are very few watches that look and feel like this. You have to go back to some of the pioneering heroes of oversized sports watches from the 1970s to find anything like this. And the only one that comes to my mind, really, is the Jaeger-LeCoultre E877, sometimes known as the Memovox Snowdrop, which was also 43 millimeters, round, shaped, and sized almost exactly like this Manometro. The nice thing about that is it fits easily on a smaller wrist. You can see it stands tall because of its chunky thickness, but from lug to lug, it doesn't come anywhere close to overlapping the edges of my wrist. I mean, not even close. You can wear this watch on as small a wrist as you like. Well below 14 centimeters in circumference, you're going to have no trouble getting a secure fit. Now, what I want to emphasize is that the ergonomics of this watch are very well thought out, because 43 millimeters is spread over one of the flattest and most evenly shaped case backs I have ever seen. You can see, in order to avoid the play on the wrist that you sometimes get from lugless designs, Giuliano Mazzuoli designed an ingenious bolstering system into the strap itself. Unlike the IWC Pilot's watch, which uses bolts for show, essentially a vintage style, this watch features polished screws that have a functional purpose, and that's to hold these beautifully finished lug wedges in. They simulate the effect of a lug in that they take up the slack between the junction point of the strap and the bottom of the case, so you don't have this open almost volume that creates play from side to side on the wrist. Once it's cinched down on your wrist, these individual pieces sort of hug the case, bolster the strap, and secure it on the top of your wrist. An ingenious solution that preserves the purity of the lugless design and ensures a comfortable, secure fit underneath. The strap is handmade in Italy. Now, Giuliano Mazzuoli is an Italian. He does all his design work in Italy. Some of his accessory parts, such as these incredibly buttery straps, are built there. The watches themselves are built in Switzerland, so you're getting the best of both worlds here, and you're getting a gorgeous strap. The look might scream Panerai, but I can tell you, having experienced many, many Panerai watches here at What You Want, the feel is anything but. Those Panerai straps are burly, tough, and military-inspired. This almost feels like it could melt in your hand. It is wonderfully soft. It's an absolute joy. From an ergonomic standpoint, the Manometro has to be one of the absolute best watches I've ever experienced. So in terms of purity, design, and ergonomics, this watch has two significant assets in its corner. Even the pin buckle is anything but a default design. It has beautiful character lines designed into it. You can see the Giuliano Mazzuoli sun emblem blazoned at the tip. It's beautifully finished top and bottom. It's a gorgeous piece that complements the simplicity of the Manometro quite nicely. This is a satisfying design. And if you've never seen one of these before and you've never heard of the company, it's worth mentioning that the design itself is a tribute to one of Mazzuoli's favorite instruments, the automotive tire pressure gauge. That's right, he's a car fan. But he's not just a car fan. Kind of like Harley Earl and Klaus Oldenburg, he takes objects from outside his milieu. Harley Earl took airplane imagery and he translated it to tail fins on automobiles in the 50s. Klaus Oldenburg, he takes everyday objects and he blows them up to a nightmare scale, so household appliances, coins, furniture. You can walk around them as though they were the size of a house. Giuliano Mazzuoli takes things like tachometers. He takes objects like speedometers and automotive pressure gauges, and he uses them to create the imagery for his watches, refined and of course finished to the standard of luxury watchmaking. It's a gorgeous sort of junction of concept and execution. And you can see the subtlety of this watch from this angle. You can see how, like a Blancpain 50 Fathoms, the 5015 model, which has its sort of cambered sapphire about the bezel, the Manometro has a gorgeous sort of lofted bezel in brushed stainless steel that's integral to the case, flows up and over in sensuous form, and then tapers into the crystal itself. So the bezel is actually slightly above the domed crystal. It adds gorgeous articulation, and the finish of everything, brushed, is beautifully done and a fantastic complement to the simple tritone dial. Now, true to its inspiration, the date window of the ETA 2824 movement's been eliminated for simplicity. Just enough shocks of red to really set it off, and the power of a black dial with white calibrations inside a brushed metal case. In proportion, and in the sense that it's highly legible and Italian in origin, it does remind me a little bit of Panerai, but I have to give Giuliano Mazzuoli huge credit because he's one of the few small volume Italian-based watch names that is not explicitly trying to ride Panerai's coattails. This is not a watch that asks you to play commando. It's not trying to sell itself on any kind of pseudo or paramilitary origins or heritage. It's very comfortable saying it's a beautiful article of luxury inspired by utilitarian everyday objects, and it fulfills that mission beautifully, right down to the crown at 2 o'clock, symbolizing the actual hardware on the pressure gauges that inspired Mazzuoli. Now, the nice thing about the watch is that, again, with Swiss genetics, an ETA 2824 movement inside, it's an automatic 4 Hz hacking movement so you can synchronize it to a reference time, precise, tough, and infinitely serviceable. And it's important to note that as the ETA supply is sort of choked off, as those movements become less and less available, the real thing in independent watchmaking products will be increasingly sought. These are precise, tough, set-it-and-forget-it movements, the perfect complement to a watch that's all about style and comfort on the wrist. Plus, you're unlikely to ever see another one. I have to say that with an annual production of just south of 1,000 pieces, Giuliano Mazzuoli is firmly in FP Journe territory, and I'd even go so far as to say in major luxury watch markets, you're far more likely to see a Chronomètre Souverain, Centigraphe, Chronomètre Bleu than you are to see any Giuliano Mazzuoli product. The Manometro and its sisters, the Carrera and the Contagieri, are beautifully done, original in inspiration, and masterful in their execution. They're also remarkably charismatic in the hand. Now, the watch is an exclusivity, beautifully refined, wonderfully executed with a fantastic backstory. Originally a typesetter, around the turn of the millennium, Giuliano Mazzuoli decided that in a paperless world, there were probably better trades to ply, and he transitioned from typesetting printing presses to luxury watchmaking, and models like the Manometro are the product of that inspiration. You can see it, and if you like, you can take home Giuliano Mazzuoli's Manometro on our website, watchyouwant.com.